Good morning, everyone. Perfect day here. Perfect snowy morning to go on a road trip, huh? So we have to travel for work in the Chevy Volt, and I figured this would be a great road trip experience to see, if these roads are bad or not, how the Volt handles, and to do an 80,000 mile review of the Chevy Volt. So let's get started. So as you can see, I just passed over 80,000 miles. I've got about 80,270 on it right now on this 2013 Chevy Volt. And just to show you what we are dealing with here, just a light, maybe an inch snow cover here before we go out to the cities. We have to stop by work, and then what we need to do is drive out to the cities. But it's not the traction control's going. This could be a treacherous journey right now, just because there is that, an inch of snow basically blanketing all of the ground here. So I'm curious to see how the Volt will do driving out there, and with these Continental True Contact tours, how it sticks. Now, it's been a while since I've driven a front-wheel drive vehicle any place in the snow, probably going back to when I was in high school, so 10 years ago. And it'll take a little bit of adjusting here. I'm hoping that the interstate will be okay, and that some of these side roads will be plowed off, is sort of what I'm hoping right now. But overall, guys, 80,000 miles on the Volt. We have put on, since we bought it, we have put on a hair over 12,000 miles. So actually quite a bit of driving in not even 10 months. We bought it in April, so we're at 9 months of ownership right now, and we put on that many miles. But it looks like, for the most part here, the main roads will be clear, although it should be noted that we will have to be careful when we are driving anyway. Some of these side roads aren't clear here, but overall, the Volt stops very nicely, and it accelerates pretty good too. I'm really not overly worried about the trip, but you never want to get too confident in a front-wheel drive car driving in the snow. So it looks like we're dealing with a west wind right now that's blowing pretty good, and still more snow. When I looked at the radar, there was no snow in the forecast, but for some reason it seems to still be snowing. So we're gonna get on the road. We're gonna get a little bit of daylight going here, and we're gonna rejoin in a little bit. Just to show you what some of the weather conditions we'll be driving through today. It's tough to tell, but temperatures are below zero right now, and will continue to drop throughout the day as the wind chills become 20 to 30 below, with 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And we are setting off here in the Volt in this kind of winter weather. Right now, the snow has basically stopped, and what we're dealing with is rapidly falling temperatures and blowing snow with blistering wind. It's blowing about 20 to 30 right now. So to get back to the Volt here, at 80,000 miles, everything's held up well. But here's the thing, the roads aren't great right now. It's too cold for any salt to work. The feels like temperature is below zero, and that is only going to drop throughout the day. So this is my first time, while owning the Volt, putting it into hold mode. So it essentially holds the battery at what it is, which is 19 miles remaining, or about 8/10 of the range remaining. And essentially here, the battery is going to hold its power due to the generator up front that powers the Voltex system. So the only reason I'm doing this is because A, I'm in a front wheel drive car, and B, if I go into the ditch or something, and let's just say for some odd reason I'm out of gas or whatever, I just want to run this on electric mode. That will be able to power me for a long time in case there's stop and go traffic or anything like that. So I won't have to worry about running on gas at all. So if I haven't exhausted that on the way back from the Twin Cities where I have to go, then I will just run the last remainder of the trip on pure electric and go from there. But I have to say, I'm pretty impressed here with the Continental True Contact Tours that are on here. And what I vaguely remember from my last front-wheel drive experience is that this car is super heavy. It's just about 4,000 pounds. It probably is over 4,000 pounds with me in the vehicle. So, and all of that weight is down low. So a lot of the traction is actually on the rear wheels, on the front wheels, where you want it to be, essentially. So you're not fishtailing or you're not trying to get traction all the time. And I do have to say, this vehicle does have a regenerative braking mode, so it's just using the electric motors essentially to regen. And that does a fairly good job at slowing me down. Of course, you need to use your brakes in there, but it's almost like a one-pedal driving experience, and it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable driving in these poor road conditions. Now, I am going to take this trip pretty slow because the roads are just not great, as I showed you. So this trip may take a little bit longer. I will have to fill up with gasoline here about halfway through. Then I can grab a bite to eat as well. But right now, just overall impressions of the Volt, 80,000 mile review. I do have the Carfax for this. This was a manufacturer buyback from California, actually down in the LA area, and it was due to some battery cells being faulty, which a lot of these Volts had issues with when they came out in 2012, 13, 14, those time periods. So some older gentleman, I should say, down in my neck of the woods actually bought this vehicle. And he had it for 10 years, a little bit over 10 years actually, and he had no issues with it, zero issues with it. He basically put 60,000 miles on the vehicle, maybe a little bit more, and had no issues with the batteries or anything like that. So I bought the car with about 68,000 miles on it, and I've had no issues whatsoever 12,000 miles into it. And from everything I've read online, these vehicles go a long way because they were so over-engineered by GM to be kind of the halo car, if you will, of the electrification era for GM, all the way from 2012, I believe, up to 2017, 18, 19, for that plug-in hybrid halo car for them. And this has been really a tremendous vehicle. I guess the only negative thing I have to say about this in terms of build quality is that when you're going slow in the L position, which is regenerative braking, since they don't have any paddles on the steering wheel, the car can feel a little clunky. Sounds like there's a bolt loose or something like that. I had a tire alignment on this vehicle and I've got new tires on it, and they didn't really say anything about that because they probably honestly didn't notice. So that's really been the only issue. Everything I've read said that is a loose bolt, so when I take this in for an oil change, which who knows when that will be, then I'll have that addressed. But everything else has been good on it. I bought this car for $7,200. After the tax credit, I receive a 30% tax credit on the total price of the vehicle for my taxes in 2024. So the total cost of this vehicle after the tax rebate or tax credit is a little over $5,000, which is great. You get a 30% tax credit, like I said. So really, for a vehicle that, yeah, it did have a lemon law buyback, but it had been on the road for 10 years after that happened. So I felt very comfortable buying the vehicle, as it already had, if it would have had any issues, it would have had them already. So I felt very comfortable buying this vehicle. the last 12,000 miles have been flawless on it. I love driving it. My girlfriend loves driving it. It's just so nice of a vehicle to drive because we all have big vehicles in our family. I've got a Jeep SRT, a 300 SRT, a Challenger SRT, and then a 78 Dodge Monaco, and she has a Mercedes GLE AMG. So we're used to big vehicles, and this vehicle, while it does still weigh a ton, it has really great driving impressions. It feels smaller than what it actually is, probably because the packaging is really good with this. All of the weight is low. The low center of gravity of this vehicle makes it seem like it sticks to the ground better than what it should. And it's just short. It's very compact, and it's a hatchback, so there's a ton of room in this vehicle. So with that being said, we love the vehicle. It drives great. You know, it's not the fastest vehicle. 0 to 30, it's about 3 seconds. After that, forget about it. It's not very fast at all, honestly. You're dealing with about 140 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, I believe, off the top of my head. So the torque numbers are great, and you get that instantaneous torque from that 0 to 30 range. But after that, once you get into the horsepower range, it's just not as good. So you're not doing any land speed records with this vehicle, and ultimately that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to be a commuter car. It's really designed to be for that person who, like us, on a normal day, we drive to work. She can't charge at work, but she only lives about 8-9 miles away from the house, and then she gets home and she just plugs it in. We can even go to the gym on a full charge if we really want to. And then it doesn't cost us any gas money whatsoever. It just costs us the $50 a month to charge it, essentially, to run the vehicle on a normal month if we're not doing any road trips like I am right now. Now, for me, I'm a little different, so I can plug in at my house and I can plug in at my work, at my business, which I own. And of course, that electricity, half of that, $50 to $60, is deductible, of course, because I'm using electricity at my business. So essentially, it makes great sense. Now, the last month or two hasn't been normal for us because we've been driving. I've been having to drive for work, as I'm doing right now, just so much. So I've been using a lot more fuel than the first 6 months of vehicle ownership. In the first 6 months of vehicle ownership, I think I only filled the tank up maybe 2 times. And those were due to some longer trips for work. But now that I'm doing longer trips almost every week, I'm having to fill this up a little bit more. And the gas mileage here in the wintertime is not very good, I do have to say. And that's kind of where hybrids fall short. You know, you're looking at, right now I'm getting, on my trip, my 17 miles, I'm getting about 31 miles per gallon. So really not super great, considering this is a 1.4 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. You know, you would expect this to be right around 40 to 45. And in the summertime, it's completely different. Wintertime ownership here, I've noticed the range, the electric range, because you're using the heater, you're using so much more stuff on this vehicle, the electric range is about 20 miles. It's not great, and that could be due to battery degradation as well, but it has to do a lot with the temperature, especially when you're dealing with below 32 degrees and really below zero weather too. So in the summertime, I could get anywhere from about 32 to almost 40 miles to the gallon, depending, or to the charge, depending on what I'm doing, how aggressive I'm driving, and stuff like that. So essentially, it's Jekyll and Hyde, really, in terms of the battery performance from winter to summer. Even though this does have negative battery performance in the wintertime, it still suits our needs because we're not driving our vehicles as much, so we're saving miles on our nicer vehicles. And for the price I paid for this car, I'll run it till it dies, essentially, because it was so cheap. And that's the beauty of this vehicle, is the cheapness of it, because how far they've depreciated since their inception. But overall, after 80,000 miles, I guess the stuff done to this vehicle has been very minimal. Coming from somebody who has either had Ram trucks or SRT vehicles, basically their whole driving life, this vehicle is great. The maintenance costs are super low. You really don't have to worry about an oil change, and the tires are super cheap because they're 17-inch rims and they're only 215 width tires. So everything about this car is very cheap. Even the purchase price was, and that does reflect a little bit on the interior, but I've got a digital cluster in front of me and I've got a digital display infotainment in front of me to the right here. So what more can you ask out of a base model Chevy Volt? It's really great. I really truly have no complaints about this vehicle for the price of the vehicle. Yes, the seats could be a little bit better, but that's my fault for not buying a nicer trim, an LT or a Premier or something like that. I just bought the base model because that's what I needed. But the tech in here for 2013 was well beyond its time, and the overall build quality of this vehicle was, for Chevy, for GM, was well beyond its time, honestly. So with that being said, guys, I just, for the price point of this vehicle, even if you can find one of these for $12,000 to $13,000 used, which would buy you a immaculate Gen 1 and a decent Gen 2 Chevy Volt, these vehicles are a no-brainer. If you need it for your commuter car and you're not trying to set any land speed records and you just want an A to B car like what this is for me, that actually has a little bit of spunkiness to it in the city, this is definitely the car for you. This is a top probably 2 or 3 car purchase for me, for sure. So guys, with that being said, I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe. That helps me out, helps my channel grow, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.